A new life cannot enter an old identity that keeps choosing familiar cages. This is your new identity attracts new realities, and I need you to listen to this as if I am not talking about your dreams, but about the version of you who keeps canceling them before they can breathe. You can change the room, the city, the job, the person beside you, the plan on your wall, the promise in your mouth, and still wake up inside the same invisible contract. The scenery moves, but something in you keeps agreeing to the same role. You leave one workplace because you are tired of feeling small, then you enter the next one and apologize before asking for basic respect. You end one relationship because you are done begging to be chosen, then you meet someone new and slowly start negotiating with silence again. You say, "This time will be different," and for a few days it is. You feel clear, you feel firm, you feel almost reborn. Then one message, one tone, one rejection, one delay, one uncomfortable boundary, and the old version of you reaches for the steering wheel. I know what it feels like to confuse exhaustion with transformation. I know what it feels like to burn everything down and still carry the same blueprint in your hands. That is why this is not about effort. You have made effort. This is not about desire. You have desired deeply. This is about the self beneath the decision, because the part of you making the choice may still believe that being overlooked is normal, that being tolerated is enough, that asking for more will cost you love, money, safety, or belonging. So let me ask you the question most people avoid, because it removes the comfort of blaming only the outside world. Why do you keep recreating situations you hate with different people? Not because you are broken, not because you are weak, but because maybe everything you called a new beginning still was not the real beginning. By the end of this, you will understand why you keep rebuilding what you swear you are trying to destroy, and what has to change before reality has permission to change with you. You did not imagine the pattern. You really did try to change. You really did make the difficult call, send the message, walk away, start over, choose the new door, and promise yourself you would never shrink like that again. And that is what makes this so quietly devastating, because when the same feeling returns in a different setting, it does not only feel like disappointment, it feels like evidence against you. It makes you wonder whether you are the problem, whether something in you is secretly drawn to what hurts, whether maybe you are not as ready as you thought. You look at your own history and start treating repetition like a sentence. But repetition is not always a sentence. Sometimes it is a signal pointing to the level of self you keep returning to when pressure touches you. Sometimes the situation changes before the identity does, and that gap becomes the place where the old pattern quietly rebuilds itself. But I want to slow down before we name anything, because I know the private ways this shows up. You apologize before you disagree, as if your opinion needs to enter the room on its knees. You make your wins smaller so no one thinks you are arrogant. You feel guilty the moment you place a boundary, even when that boundary is reasonable, overdue, and spoken with care. You say no pressure when there is pressure. You say, "It is fine," when your body already knows it is not. You over-explain simple needs because some part of you still believes being understood is the same as being allowed. You rehearse normal requests as if you are preparing for trial. You read neutral silence as rejection. You accept less, then call it patience, because admitting the truth would mean admitting how long you have been cooperating with your own erasure. And the hardest part is that these behaviors can look noble from the outside. People may call you kind, flexible, easygoing, mature. They may praise the very adaptations that are draining you. So you learn to keep performing the version of yourself that gets approval, even when that version keeps costing you access to the life you say you want. I think about Marina, 34, who left a corporate career because she was tired of being managed by people who praised her loyalty while using her silence. She thought entrepreneurship would free her, and in some ways, it did. No boss, no office politics, no performance review where she smiled through resentment. But 3 months into her business, she was answering clients at midnight, accepting discounts she could not afford, changing deadlines because someone sounded irritated, and saying thank you to people who treated her time like it had no weight. She would open her laptop already tense, not because the work was impossible, but because she was waiting for someone to disapprove. One afternoon, after rewriting a proposal for the 4th time without charging more, she stared at the invoice she was afraid to send and realized She had not escaped submission. She had simply hired new people to stand where her old bosses stood. The titles changed, the tone changed, the rooms changed, but the agreement inside her had not changed. She still believed that being chosen required being convenient. She still believed that asking for fair payment made her difficult. She still believed that if someone was disappointed, she had done something wrong. She had believed the environment was the cage. Then she saw the harder truth. The cage was also what she believed she deserved to occupy. And I say that with tenderness, not blame. A pattern is not always proof of weakness. Sometimes it is a protection system that once helped you survive a room where honesty was punished, where needing less made you safer, where being easy to love meant being easy to overlook. Of course you learn to scan faces before speaking. Of course you learn to lower the size of your presence when someone else's mood changed. Of course a part of you still confuses peace with permission. So when a new opportunity asks you to stand taller, the old system calls it danger. It whispers, "I am being realistic." It calls resistance prudence. It makes the smaller choice look mature, responsible, humble, strategic. You do not send the proposal because you are still refining it. You do not say the truth because it is not the right time. You do not choose yourself because you are thinking long-term. But underneath, it may be protecting the old self from the risk of becoming visible. And once you see that, the story begins to shake. Because the thing you thought was wisdom may have only been fear wearing clean clothes. The moment everything begins to change is usually not the moment you feel strong. It is the moment you finally see what has been running your life from the shadows. Most people think their suffering comes from repeating situations. I do not think that is true. I think the situation is only the costume. The real repetition happens deeper. Different faces, same conclusion, different job, same self-doubt, different relationship, same fear of being abandoned, different opportunity, same instinct to make yourself smaller before anyone asks. You think life keeps sending you the same lesson, but often, life is simply reflecting the same identity back to you until you recognize it. And that recognition can be uncomfortable because it removes your last hiding place. If the pattern is not outside of you, then it cannot be escaped by changing scenery alone. It has to be seen, named, understood, not because you are guilty, because you are finally ready to become conscious of it. This is where many people misunderstand discomfort. They assume pain means something is wrong. They assume resistance means they should stop. They assume uncertainty means they are making a mistake. But what if the discomfort you feel is not evidence of failure? What if it is evidence that the version of you who learned to survive can no longer fit inside the life that is trying to emerge? There is a kind of fear that disguises itself as maturity. It sounds intelligent. It sounds responsible. It sounds reasonable. It says, "Let's not get carried away." It says, "Maybe later." It says, "Let's be realistic." But wisdom and fear are not the same thing. Wisdom expands your capacity to engage with reality. Fear shrinks your capacity while pretending to protect you. Wisdom helps you see clearly. Fear helps you justify staying where you are. Wisdom may move carefully, but it still moves. Fear remains still and calls it strategy. That distinction changes everything, because many people have spent years obeying fear while calling it maturity. And beneath that fear sits the deeper pattern. The first layer is this: you do not keep repeating circumstances. You keep repeating a belief about what level of life belongs to you. The second layer is even more important. You did not consciously choose that belief. It was formed before you had language for it, before you could evaluate it, before you could challenge it. Maybe it came from being ignored, maybe from criticism, maybe from constantly feeling like love, approval, attention, or safety had to be earned. The details differ, but the result is similar. A silent conclusion forms. This is my place. This is what people like me receive. This is what I can expect. And after enough repetition, the conclusion stops feeling like a belief. It starts feeling like reality. But here is the third layer, the one most people never reach. The moment a pattern is named with precision, it loses part of its power. Not all of it, but enough. Because what was once invisible becomes observable. What was once automatic becomes noticeable. And what becomes noticeable can eventually become a choice instead of a reflex. So I want you to stop for a moment and ask yourself 3 questions. In what area of your life do you keep arriving at the same destination through different people or circumstances? What do you honestly believe you deserve in that area? Not what you want, not what sounds good, but what you feel entitled to receive at the deepest level. And is that belief actually yours, or is it a conclusion you reached after experiences that happened before you had a voice strong enough to question them? Sit with that. Do not rush past it. Because I need to ask you the question again, and this time I want it to land differently. Why do you keep recreating situations you hate with different people? What if the answer is not that life is against you? What if the answer is not bad luck? What if the answer is not lack of effort? What if the answer is that an old identity is still negotiating on behalf of a person you no longer are? If that possibility feels uncomfortable, good. Something important just moved. And once something moves, it can never return completely to sleep. Now breathe with me for a second. Not because everything is solved, but because seeing the pattern already changes your relationship with it. Before, the old response felt like you. Now it can become something you notice. That difference matters. You may still feel the pull to apologize, shrink, explain, delay, accept the smaller version of what you asked for. But now there is a pause between the pull and the action. And in that pause, a new self begins to have room. Not loud room, not dramatic room. A quiet inch of space where you can ask, who is making this choice right now? The part of me that fears being rejected, or the part of me that knows I can survive being misunderstood? This is where decisions begin to change from the inside. At first, not in massive gestures, not in cinematic exits, not in declarations that prove something to everyone watching. It begins in the moment you stop sending the extra paragraph to soften a boundary that was already clear. It begins when you do not laugh at something that quietly disrespected you. It begins when you let a message sit until you are calm enough to answer from steadiness instead of panic. It begins when you stop treating discomfort as proof that you are wrong, because the discomfort of becoming someone new is different from the suffering of betraying yourself again. One feels unfamiliar because it asks you to expand. The other feels familiar because it asks you to disappear. And this is the second layer of the difference between fear pretending to be maturity and real wisdom. Fear says, do not take up too much space because people may leave. Wisdom says, the people who require your disappearance are not the measure of your worth. Fear says, stay agreeable because conflict is dangerous. Wisdom says, peace that costs you your voice is only another form of captivity. Fear says, you should wait until you are more ready. Wisdom says, readiness is often built after the first honest step. This is not about becoming reckless. It is not about burning every bridge or forcing confidence before it is real. It is about no longer confusing self-abandonment with emotional intelligence. It is about recognizing that your old identity may call your growth selfish simply because it was trained to survive by being useful, pleasant, and low maintenance. A snake does not suffer because it sheds its skin. It suffers when the old skin becomes too tight and it keeps trying to live inside it. A bone that breaks and heals can become denser where the fracture was, not because the break was beautiful, but because the body knows how to reinforce what once could not hold. Maybe this is what is happening inside you now. Not a glamorous transformation, not a perfect reinvention, a structural one. You start choosing silence where you used to choose automatic agreement. You stop apologizing for occupying the space your life requires. You notice that the new discomfort does not have the same taste as the old suffering. It is cleaner, sharper, more honest. And slowly, choice by choice, your reality begins to meet the identity you are finally willing to inhabit. You do not attract what you want simply because you want it. You attract what your identity can hold without secretly negotiating it away. You attract what the deepest part of you believes is safe, familiar, deserved, and possible for someone like you. That is why desire alone is not enough. Desire can point toward the door, but identity decides whether you walk through it, whether you stand there apologizing for entering, or whether you turn around and call it timing. You can write the goal, you can repeat the affirmation, you can visualize the life with perfect detail. But if the old self still believes love must be earned through silence, money must come with guilt, visibility must bring punishment, and peace must be paid for with self-erasure, then even your dreams will be filtered through that hidden agreement. You will not reject the better thing. because you do not want it. You will reject it because it asks you to become someone your nervous system has not yet learned to trust. So this is the moment where I want you to stop treating your life like a series of failed attempts. Maybe you were not failing. Maybe you were practicing awareness without knowing it. Maybe every repeated situation was not proof that you were cursed, but proof that the same inner contract was still active. And now you can see it. That matters. Because when you see the agreement, you can stop signing it unconsciously. When you see the role, you can stop auditioning for it. When you see the old identity reaching for the steering wheel, you can place your hand over it and say, not with violence, not with shame, but with clarity, I know why you came. You protected me when I did not know another way. You helped me survive rooms where my truth felt unsafe. But you are not allowed to confuse survival with destiny anymore. You are not driving anymore. Now, here, enough. You do not have to become louder to become new. You do not have to become harder to become free. You do not have to prove your worth to everyone who benefited from you doubting it. The shift may begin quietly. One boundary, one honest answer, one price you no longer lower, one message you no longer chase, one room where you let yourself be seen without shrinking first, one conversation where you do not rescue someone from the discomfort of your truth, one opportunity where you do not make yourself less prepared just so the old fear can feel familiar. And when that fear asks, who do you think you are? You answer with your choices, not with performance, not with explanation, with repetition in the other direction. Because a new identity is not installed by one emotional moment. It is built every time you refuse to abandon yourself in the exact place where you used to disappear. Because this is the real beginning, not the dramatic restart, not the version where you change everything outside and hope the inside catches up, not the promise made at midnight after another collapse, the beginning where the self who chooses finally becomes the self who knows. You are not starting over, you are finally starting. And if this touched something in you, tell me, because I want to keep building this path with you. Follow me here. Let the final screen hold this sentence for the part of you that is still catching up. Your new reality begins where your old identity stops choosing for you. What part of your life is asking you to stop returning to a version of yourself that no longer has permission to lead?